Good morning, everybody. Napoleon dominated Europe from roughly 1805 to 1815. And it was on this date, July 7, in 1807, that something occurred that symbolized perhaps the peak of his power. And that is, he met the Tsar of Russia, Alexander, on a raft in the Niemen River, basically where Poland, Russia, and Lithuania come together, and signed what we call the Treaty of Tilsit. In 1805, the English Navy defeated a combined French and Spanish fleet off the coast of Spain at the Battle of Trafalgar. So this prevented Napoleon from defeating England. And England is going to be behind the scenes in our story today. A month after Trafalgar, in what is now the Czech Republic, Napoleon won the Battle of Austerlitz, probably his greatest strategic win. And notice in the lower right corner you see the name Alexander. Well, that's Alexander I, the Tsar of Russia. He was present at this battle and was one of the losers, and 2 years later he'll sign the treaty of our story. So look at the map of the Baltic. It's surrounded by Sweden, Finland, the Baltic republics, Poland, etc. Notice the blue area between Lithuania and Poland. That's called Kaliningrad today, and it's part of Russia. But back then it was part of kind of Poland, kind of Prussia, Lithuania itself. And this map, you see the purple there, these borders were in flux for a long, long time, and that's where the event happened. So here's the marker of where Tilsit is. It's called Sovietsk today. So why did Napoleon pick this spot for the treaty? Well, everything to the west he controlled. So he's making a symbolic statement here that he's signing the treaty with the Tsar on the front door of Russia, reminding the Tsar of who's really in charge. And so here's the event for today. Napoleon's on the raft in the Niemen River. He's welcoming the Tsar, who's coming in from the left. And Napoleon saw himself as being very gregarious, very friendly. These guys are going to be best of friends. But really it was Napoleon running the show, and everybody knew it. At the same time period, Napoleon was waging economic warfare against Britain. It was called the Continental System, and it was basically an economic boycott. And Russia was supposed to cooperate with this, but eventually the Tsar started trading with Britain again. They had had a long history of trading with England, and this really made Napoleon mad that the Tsar was not cooperating. So in 1812, Napoleon invaded Russia with about 600,000 soldiers, and he expected the Tsar to negotiate. But the Tsar wouldn't. The Tsar he was under lots of pressure from his own people, so Napoleon's army kept going, and they finally had a big battle with the Russian army outside of Moscow at Borodino. There were about 100,000 casualties. The battle took all day. It was ferocious. And the French claimed the field at the end of the day. And soon after that, they entered Moscow, and here's Napoleon in front of the Kremlin. But the Russians had set Moscow on fire. They didn't want Napoleon to be able to winter in Moscow, which was Napoleon's plan. So Napoleon realized he had to leave and hightail it back to France. So the French army retreated. This is the route of their retreat, and they retraced a lot of the steps they had taken going into Russia, including going over past battlefields where some of the dead were still visible. Not everybody had been buried. One of the big differences, though, between this and before is now winter's coming. And here's a picture of Napoleon's army, soldiers wearing whatever they can to stay warm. So between casualties, sickness, and the cold, of the 600,000 men who entered Russia on Napoleon's behalf, about 500,000 died. Just a tremendous loss for Napoleon's army. And one observer of all of this was Karl von Clausewitz, who was a Prussian. He had fought against Napoleon as a Prussian officer. He later went to Russia to advise the Tsar, and he observed all of this. And out of this came his classic book on war, which analyzed the connection of war and politics. still timely today.